It was supposed to be a reunion, calm, polite, maybe even redemptive. A long-awaited conversation between the Duchess who defied the crown and the journalist who once called her the most fascinating woman in modern monarchy. Cameras were rolling. Tea was poured. The London skyline shimmered beyond the glass. Everything about Piers Morgan tonight screamed civility. The gold lighting, the poised silence, the promise of professionalism. But what no one expected was how fast that calm would burn away. Because when Piers Morgan sat across from Meghan Markle for the first time in years, the air was thick with unfinished history. This wasn't just an interview. It was a reckoning. Piers smiled into the camera, voice rich and inviting. "A very special guest joins me tonight," he began smoothly. "She's been called many things. A trailblazer, a disruptor, a survivor, and to some, even a rebel. Please welcome Meghan, Duchess of Sussex." The applause was polite, controlled. Meghan walked in with that familiar composure. Soft curls, a tailored black blazer, and the kind of calm smile that gave nothing away. She shook his hand. Her eyes didn't quite meet his. "Lovely to see you again," Piers said warmly. "It's been a while," Meghan replied, her tone cool. "Though I imagine you've been busy, commenting on my life from afar." A polite laugh from the audience. A sharp jab between the lines. Piers chuckled. "Well, you do make rather compelling headlines." Meghan tilted her head slightly. "Headlines you helped create, if I recall." The tension flickered like static before a storm. Still, Piers held his composure. "Touché," he said with a grin. "But let's start fresh, shall we? Tell me, how's life in California? I hear the sun shines brighter when you're royalty in exile." Her laugh was short. "Oh, I wouldn't call myself an exile, Piers. I left a broken system. Now I live freely. It's perfect." "Perfect?" he echoed, eyebrows lifting. "No regrets about leaving the royal family, the titles, the tradition?" Meghan's smile cooled. "I didn't lose anything worth regretting. I found peace, something the tabloids could never offer." Piers leaned back, legs crossed, eyes narrowing ever so slightly. "Peace, and a few Netflix deals." Her expression stiffened. "I think it's lovely that successful women still make you uncomfortable." The air thinned. Crew members shifted behind the cameras. Piers forced a chuckle. "Not at all. I admire ambition. I just hope it isn't performative." "Would you rather I stayed quiet and grateful?" she asked, voice calm but cutting. "Smiling on cue for men like you?" The polite tension shattered for a moment. Piers's jaw tightened. "I prefer authenticity," he said quietly. "And I prefer not to be lectured on authenticity," Meghan shot back, "by someone who built a career out of gossip." Silence. Long enough for everyone to feel it. Piers broke it with a slow breath. "Right," he said finally. "Then I suppose this will be a lively evening." Meghan crossed her legs, her smirk returning. "You invited me, Piers. I assumed you were ready for honesty." "Oh, I'm ready," he said softly. "I just hope you are too." The game had begun. "Let's talk about the royal-sized elephant in the room," Piers said after a pause. "You and Prince Harry, how are things? The world's curious." "Curious," Meghan repeated. "That's a polite word for obsessed." "I prefer interested," he countered. "You two redefined modern royalty." "Redefining?" "No," she said evenly. "Surviving it?" "Still, you have to admit," Piers pressed. "People wonder if you ever regret walking away." "I regret nothing that gave me peace," she replied. "And I regret even less the noise we left behind." "Ah," he said. "So peace and privacy? Two things you talk about often while doing interviews like this." Her eyes narrowed. "Privacy means having control over your story, not silence. You, of all people, should understand control." Piers smiled thinly. "Information isn't control, Meghan. It's journalism." "Then you've mistaken intrusion for inquiry," she replied sharply. For a beat, the studio lights hummed louder than their words. Piers leaned forward. "You've spoken about truth before. You said certain members of the royal family expressed concern about your child's complexion. That moment, well, it changed everything." Meghan's face didn't move. "People remember the line," she said softly, "but not the pain behind it. And people like you made sure of that." "You do realize," Piers said carefully, "that moment painted the monarchy as racist in the eyes of millions." "I didn't paint anything," she said coldly. I spoke my truth. And yet, he continued, you refused to name who said it. Doesn't truth require the whole story? Meghan's voice stayed calm, but her words cut deep. I wasn't there to feed your headlines, Piers. I was there to heal. Piers tilted his head. Healing through half-truths. Interesting method. Good idea, Meghan replied flatly. You're not very good with nuance. He let the jab pass. Let's move on. California, sunshine, chickens, meditation. Tell me, is that where peace lives now? She gave a soft, practiced laugh. Peace lives wherever men like you stop telling my story. The tension pulsed again. Old man, he repeated with a faint grin. You mean interviewers like me? Exactly, she said. You're the last gasp of legacy media before it fades into irrelevance. He laughed, this time genuinely. You do have a gift for diplomacy. I have a gift for honesty, she said. It just makes fragile egos uncomfortable. Piers leaned forward, voice low. Tell me, Meghan, do you ever get tired of playing the victim? Her eyes flashed. Playing? She repeated. You think losing privacy, being vilified, nearly breaking down, is a performance? I think you're a master storyteller, he said, and maybe the story's gotten convenient. You think I wanted to be driven out of a country? She snapped. You think I wanted my family hunted? My pain turned into your nightly monologues? I ask questions, he said coolly. That's my job. The world deserves answers, from people who claim to be oppressed while living in mansions. Her voice dropped, soft but deadly. You really hate women who refuse to play by your rules. On the contrary, he said. I love strong women. I just prefer when their strength doesn't come at the expense of truth. Oh, please, she scoffed. You wouldn't know truth if it gave you a headline. The room was silent. Even the control room stopped whispering. Then came the blow from Piers, calm, deliberate, surgical. Not as much as self-pity does. The words sliced through the air. Meghan froze, her expression turning to steel. Wow, she said quietly. That's who you are. Piers looked back at her. No, Meghan. That's who you've become. The temperature in the room dropped. They had started with tea and small talk. Now it felt like a war zone. Piers exhaled, glanced at his cards, and shut them like a book. All right, he said, tone reset. Let's talk about your work. The documentaries, the podcasts, the deals. What are you most proud of? Something that actually changed lives. Meghan tilted her chin. Existing as myself changes lives. Representation is impact. Of course, Piers said smoothly. But between representation and results, which matters more? She smiled thinly. I know this game. You want data to validate my existence. I don't audition for approval. No audition required, he replied. Just one concrete example. My foundation supports initiatives worldwide, she said. But I won't turn real people into your talking points. He nodded slowly. All right. Spotify ended by mutual agreement. Netflix scaled back. Are these just growing pains or signs that audiences want more than posture? Audiences want liberation, she said sharply. They respond to authenticity, not patriarchy's permission slips. He leaned back. Sometimes broadcasts are listened to, and sometimes they aren't. How do you calibrate for that? I don't calibrate for critics, she said. Especially not ones who built careers ridiculing women who refuse to bow. Piers let it linger, then pivoted. Let's talk family. You've spoken about healing. People want to believe in that. Do you talk to them? Her tone cooled. Family isn't a public service announcement. Healing isn't for you to supervise. I'm not asking to supervise, he said gently. Just asking, do you still want reconciliation? I want what's healthy, she said. What's safe? Forgive me if I don't. Crowdsource that with the man who made my pain into entertainment. He inclined his head. Point taken. He flipped another card. Since you mentioned safety, legal actions, security debates, public statements, do you feel any responsibility for raising the temperature of public life? The responsibility sits with those who hunted us, she said evenly. If I light a beacon, I won't apologize that it exposes the wolves. And if it exposes your own mistakes too? He asked quietly. She smiled faintly. You're desperate for a gotcha. It's almost endearing. He didn't blink. I'm interested in accountability. Truth doesn't need permission, but credibility does need evidence. For the first time, Meghan paused. Then she said softly, "You built an empire from shrapnel. Piers, don't lecture me about explosions." He smiled faintly. "That's fair. I've made mistakes. I've apologized for some. I expect to be challenged. Do you?" "I expect to be validated by no one but myself," she said. He nodded once. "Then let's talk about Harry. How is he?" "He's fine," she said, her voice turning sharp again. "We're fine. We don't need your pastoral care." "There were reports of separate residences," he ventured. "They're irrelevant," she said. "And no, we haven't asked to borrow your sofa." He smirked. "Good. Not sure it's red enough." Her reply came flat. "Your jokes land better when the target can't answer back." "And yet here you are," he said softly. "Answering back?" "Correcting," she countered. "Not answering." He smiled. "Then let's correct this. Staff departures, high turnover, reported tension. Is it them or is it you?" Her tone sharpened. "Women with standards are called difficult. Women with boundaries are called tyrants. I'm neither. I simply refuse mediocrity." "Is it mediocrity to disagree with you?" he asked. "It's mediocrity to misunderstand, omission, and resent. The person who won't shrink for your comfort," she said. Something flickered in Piers's eyes. Respect, irritation, or both. He pivoted again. "You've said silence is complicity, but also privacy is your right. Isn't that selective?" "That's called sovereignty," she said. "You should try it." He smiled faintly. "Sovereignty is earned, not declared." A pause, the kind of silence that carried sparks. Then he asked softly, "The monarchy, the institution you say harmed you, it also made you visible to the world. Do you ever feel gratitude for the stage?" Meghan's answer was quiet but sharp as a blade. "I was the stage." Piers blinked. "You were the stage?" "Everyone else played on my back," she said. "Until I stood up." "Standing up," he said, "usually implies lifting others too." "Who did you lift?" "Anyone who learned survival matters more than obedience," she said. "Anyone who realized they could leave a gilded cage." "And those who think you burned bridges they still needed?" he asked. "They can swim," she replied coldly. That was the moment the room turned. Piers's smile faded completely. He straightened, voice calm but cutting. "All right. Final question. You've said you want to be known for your work. So, what's the work? Not the aura, not the brand. The work we can measure in 5 years." Meghan's answer came like a final strike. "The work," she said, "is changing who gets to ask the questions and who has to answer them." He held her gaze. "That sounds less like service and more like supremacy." "Maybe you should be less afraid of my voice," she said. "It's not going away." "I'm not afraid of your voice," he replied quietly. "I'm worried for the people it drowns out." Silence, long, electric silence. Then Meghan leaned forward, almost smiling. "You want a headline, Piers?" "Here it is, I owe you nothing." He breathed out. "You owe the truth," he said. "Not to me, to the people you keep recruiting into your pain." Her smile vanished. "And you owe them their humanity. Try it sometime." A red tally light blinked above the main camera. The segment clock ticked toward break. Piers straightened his cards. "After the break," he said smoothly to the lens, "we'll discuss legacy. What lasts after the lights go out?" He glanced at Meghan. "And whether burning every bridge," he added softly, "is a legacy worth having." The screen faded to black. In the control room, someone finally exhaled. On the studio floor, a runner placed 2 fresh glasses of water and slipped, away like a messenger from a battlefield. When they came back from commercial, both smiled, perfectly, painfully. But everyone watching could feel it. The civility was gone. What was left was truth, or at least 2 very different versions of it, colliding under the soft lights of a London studio. And somewhere behind those smiles, 2 people who had once shared polite tea were now sharing the sharpest silence of all.